let's talk about responsibilities of leaders. And I think in this occasion, and you'll know what I mean by this if you watch the video I did on quality of sports leaders, I did circles, and I'm going to do squares or rectangles this time. I'm going to show you that we have 3 groups of responsibilities that the sports leader has. 1, 2, and I'll put one below down here. I don't know why I didn't do them all in a row really, but I'll put one more down here, a bit like this. Look, that's not worked out very well, but it'll do. Here we go. We've got 3 groups of responsibilities that our sports leaders need to be. And I've got this yellow one first, and we call these the core responsibilities. The core responsibilities of sports leaders. Core responsibilities. Lovely. Okay, what do we mean by this? Well, the first one, and absolutely imperative you achieve this, is the notion of professional conduct. Now, I would actually argue that professional conduct could even sort of cover all the rest of what's about to follow, but professional conduct is being positive, being kind, taking your activity seriously, knowing that you're in a position of responsibility, knowing that young people are looking up to you, respecting that position. That's what we mean by professional conduct, okay? Looking smart, talking positively, being kind, being supportive. All these things are being professional. As is planning your session, being as detailed as possible, reviewing it afterwards. All these are professional conduct. Let's take it a bit further. Sports leaders also need to have a very keen sense of health and safety. Now, it might sound uninteresting, but believe me, the more you spend time on health and safety and making sure that things are in good condition, that saves you an awful lot of work, because if things go wrong and someone gets hurt or something goes badly, then that can be a really big problem, obviously, for them and for you. So health and safety is really important. We're talking here about things like risk assessments, checking the playing surface or the coaching surface where you're going to be, that there's no debris, making sure there's clear runoff areas if you're indoors doing basketball, say, making sure there's not equipment in the road, making sure there's not holes in the ground that people are going to trip over, making sure there's not glass on the surface, making sure that if you're doing netball that the players have got their fingernails trimmed, making sure that people aren't chewing gum. I could keep going and going and going and going and going, but you get the idea. This matters, because if you don't do it, then things can go wrong. Now, the next one is equality. Now, there's all kinds of aspects of this one too, but I want to just give you the simplest example of this. It's treating everyone the same. It's speaking to everyone in the same way. It's not differentiating people by whether it's height or gender or skin tone or whatever it happens to be. You treat everybody in the same way. Also, equality comes down to how you treat people of different playing standards the same way as well. Now, that doesn't mean you give them the same level of challenge, because they might need different levels of challenge, but you don't overvalue the good players and undervalue the less good players, of course. So this is our core responsibility. These are our core responsibilities. Now, we also have wider responsibilities. And some of these, I think some of these at least, they're like, you've got to tick them off and make sure that you've checked. Have I spelled that right? I was talking while I wrote it. Wider responsibilities. I think I did. So here's one for you. Check that you have insurance. Now, it's not likely that you're going to go and get your own insurance policy, but if you're, for example, coaching or sports leading in a sports club, the club's probably got insurance, and it will probably involve things such as you can coach, but you can't be on your own while you're coaching. There has to be another coach present, observing, this sort of thing. But insurance is necessary, because if something goes wrong, someone breaks a bone, sometimes insurance is involved with that. The second one is child protection. Now, there's all kinds of aspects of this as well. Some of them get very, very serious very, very quickly, but a couple of tips I would give you on child protection. First of all, be sensitive to what people tell you, and children sometimes disclose things to people they see in positions of responsibility, and sometimes they can be concerning, right? So if you get any kind of comment like that, you report it immediately to the child protection officer that's the member of your club or your school, probably your teacher, and you let people know and you ask for support, okay? So the real rule of thumb here is if you hear something that concerns you, you report it, you share it, and you pass it on. That's basically how child protection works, and that will reach the person who is knowledgeable, experienced with these things, who can sort things out, okay? So disclosing that information is important, but child protection and making sure that people are safe is a part of your responsibility. And also, we have legal obligations. Legal obligations. Now, these are many. I'll just mention a couple of things, okay? So, legal obligations. You might want to be thinking about sort of tactility and whether you can put your hand on the arm of a student, for example, a participant, for example. Basically, you can't. You just got to, be aware of that and make sure that you probably do that with all innocence, just trying to be supportive and helpful. But a legal obligation is that we don't do that. Okay, so that's a really important thing. There are other things too. You've got to follow. I happen to be recording this during the period of COVID, and obviously you're going to follow certain regulations and binding things that you have to do about social distancing and changing room usage and these sorts of things. So be aware of those things and follow them. And finally, guys, let's finish this off. Only a couple of points really. I'm just going to call these other responsibilities. Other responsibility. Why is that so hard to spell? There's about a million I's in it. Other responsibilities. Okay. First of all, I want to talk about ethics and values. Now, this can mean different things to different people, but for me, a lot of them come back to the equality point, treating people fairly, equally, positively, having good ethics. What is it? What is the value system at the heart of your leadership? You want all young people to have a great opportunity and the opportunity to learn, but that's a responsibility of a sports leader, not just I'm there because I've got to be, I'm here because I'm getting paid. That's a different position. You're probably not going to be paid for this, of course. And secondly, guys, on the other category is rules and regulations. You really do need to follow the recognised rules of your sport when in your leadership role. So if you're working with under sevens, for example, in soccer, and it says no more than 5 aside, you're going to follow that, right? Or you're going to apply the actual rules of the game appropriately and fairly and so on. So these are the responsibilities we refer to. Cheers.